Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Ask T3, the real estate industry's podcast, where we ask big questions and get smart answers. You can join us on LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube, but we also want you to continue to be part of the conversation. So go to askt3.com, ask us a question, give us a show idea, and we'd love to hear from you. So today's episode, this is a fun topic. This has been something that has been around for a few years, but I think it's kind of come back and been in the news a little bit. It's broker public portal. What's happening with it? Felt like it was at the center of every headline a couple years ago, maybe got a little quiet, and we're starting to see things come back. So we're going to find out what's happening with it. And joining me today is the CEO of Broker Public Portal, Data Dan. Dan's here.
Thanks, Nick, for having me today and telling everybody your nickname for me. I appreciate that.
I know. I didn't even tell you I was going to call you Data Dan. I've known Dan for years, and he's like the data wizard guy. Smart, understands data, so I've called him Data Dan. Anyway, thanks for joining us.
Thanks.
All right, so what's happening? Broker Public Portal is back in the headlines quite a bit in the last few weeks. I think you probably have something to do with that, but do you want to just kind of start us off, and where are we at with this project?
Yeah, like you, I was a bit surprised when I received a phone call to take on the Broker Public Portal. My first response when someone called me was, is that thing still alive, kind of thing. So it doesn't surprise me when I talk to people. We know this is an uphill battle, right? This is an ongoing thing. But if you go back to the time that Broker Public Portal started in 2014, you really understand kind of the nexus of why it was started by a bunch of brokers in MLS. In 2014, 2015, I think I knew you at that time, definitely knew you at that time in the industry. Zillow finally surpassed Realtor.com in the portal space. And I think the brokers, it's kind of a wake-up call for brokers in MLS. Like, our portal is not the portal that's at the top of the list anymore. So out of that, a bunch of conversations came out of, and they started to look for a partner to help them launch a portal. That partner at the time was HomeSnap, and they ended up launching with HomeSnap, and a successful launch. Over 1 million agents. I think a bunch of MLSs participating, a bunch of brokers participating in that. Great feedback on the product, and great rollout, great training, and really great feedback about the product itself, both from consumers as well as agents. We kind of know how the story ends, though. CoStar purchased HomeSnap, weren't able to come to terms on how it would continue to be used. And so that's when we kind of had a shift in a realization that we had to come up with something else. And insert me coming in and starting to build another product that helps us compete in this portal space, or in the search space, as we like to say.
Yeah, and let's talk about that. I mean, I think there were things that I remember about Broker Public Portal. Things that it was rumored to be, things that it absolutely was not. So when you talk about home search, there are brokerage sites, agent sites, major portals. Where does this play into, or where does your vision see this portal for consumers, the industry, home search? Where does it set? Why is it different?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a common question that I get a lot too, of, we're never going to beat Zillow, or we're never going to beat Redfin. Like, we've already lost the game, right? And why even tackle something like this? First of all, I don't think we've lost the game. I think the game is still the fight is still quite on. I think Zillow represents approximately 6% of the transactions actually do a transaction through Zillow. Yes, a lot of buyers are on there searching on Zillow.com. I personally use Zillow.com. It's a great website. Kudos to the folks that make it and have pushed us to be better around home search. But the gap I really see is, what about the other 90-some% that are still doing transactions with real estate agents and brokers out there? And can we elevate their experience that they give to consumers? We think the moats that the top portals have always had have definitely shrunk. The ability for us to deliver portal level technology down to the brokerage level, down to the MLS level, is going to provide value to them, so they don't have to go to those portals. The portal wars are tough, especially low intent marketing. I like to say to the team, we don't have Lil Wayne money, which is a tribute to the Homes.com guys who had Lil Wayne in their in their commercials. Like, we definitely don't have that money, but what we have is we have a very talented team that knows search really well. I came from Remax, worked on Remax.com and different iterations of Remax.com. So the team itself is, 50 plus years of guys who've worked on search and really got a chance to reboot it and do a refresh on it and really think about it differently in today's technology. We are a company now. I say we're a 10-year startup because we started last year. We started in the age of AI, which is so interesting, right? To start a company right now in the age of AI, not a company that was started 15 years ago that has to somehow squeeze AI into their process. We started at a really great time and we've built this really great search already. And we're starting to get traction with it, which is great. And the thing about it is, it's not like HomeSnap where we licensing anything. Like, this is ours. We built it from scratch.
And tell us about this AI search, because I talk to audience and I've talked quite a bit about, the term AI. A lot of real estate professionals and brokers are tired of hearing that term because they said it's just too general. Everything's just AI and it's a buzzword. And I've been talking about search, that I think that seems to be one that has a lot of innovation around it. But tell us, like, what you're doing with search, or what you envision search to be because of AI specifically.
Yeah. Gosh, I could take up the whole podcast on this, but I'll try to be brief with it because
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're out of time. Thanks. No, but I think it's really interesting because I do think search is going to look totally different in a very short period of time.
Yes and no. And I say that because I don't necessarily have all the answers here, and I don't know what search will look like in the future, but we are trying to make guesses at what we think it'll look like in the future. But let's talk about what we know it won't be. I think it'll always be visual. You'll have to use your eyes to look at houses. So let's just start there, right? We like to call it haystack needle, right? You're going through a haystack to find a needle, and we try to take other businesses too and say, what are other businesses that are like ours that are using AI to do this haystack needle type search? I need to filter through a lot to find that one or find that few that I'm searching for. And we think AI can help with that, but we think there's some things that will never change. One, it'll be very visual. I think people wish it was actually more senses. I think Greg Robertson loves to say that Zillow can't smell the cat, which is an amazing line. I used to say Zillow can't, what's worse than just having cats? It's you can't smell the smoke either, or the worst, the smoking cats. Those are the worst out of all three of those combos. So we wish there was more senses, right? And we're starting to see that even from a visual perspective. We're starting to see things like floor plans, people starting to extract data from the images to find out more about the property. So we still think, if you rewind the clock even 50 years, what did people search by? They searched by location. They searched by bed, bath, square footage. So we like to think search is very much like flight. You know where you're going to go, you know when you're going there, and you know how many people you're bringing with you. And would you want to talk in a chat interface to figure that out? And we do not believe that's the future of search. So looking at how Airbnb is thinking about it, think about how other search platforms are thinking about this. We've really kind of found a middle ground that still feels comfortable, where you can use natural language, but still feels like you're pulling levers, right? I'm using filters to find what I'm looking for. So we are currently in that middle ground space. We think that there's a lot more to come in this space as well, and how we use AI to help us find homes. But when I said we're in the age of AI, I really meant it from the standpoint of a company. So think about how it's helping you on an everyday basis, right? From email to writing stuff. When it comes to writing code, it is redefining engineering. And so that's what I really meant from our standpoint of using AI. Yes, we're also using AI for our search, and we think we're doing some very innovative stuff. But really, our ability to scale with very few people is why I think those moats are shrinking.
And so is it fair to say kind of the old days of search being drop down clunky menus of pages of feature selection will somewhat be gone? Will it be more of a, Dan, you're my agent and I want to move to San Diego. I have 2 kids. I want to be in a good school district with restaurants and lifestyle around me.
Yeah.
Be more conversational like that? Is that how you envision it versus the drop down, check the box?
I would say not as extreme. I think those are 2 different extremes. So first of all, your example of moving to San Diego and knowing about the restaurants, that's actually a really low percentage of moves in the US. a bunch of the moves, the majority of the moves in the US are 1 to 2 zip code hops. So you're saying, hey, I know where I actually want to go. I know the schools I want to go to. In fact, we're seeing this, right? You don't even see schools and drop downs at Zillow anymore. You don't see neighborhoods and drop downs at Zillow anymore. City and zip are still very primary search locations, and people usually know the locations. Yes, it's sexy to talk about, I'm moving from California to Idaho, or my buddy who works for Netflix moved from San Francisco to Bethesda, Maryland because it was cheaper. Like, you moved from what I think is a super expensive place, being from the Midwest, to even just slightly less expensive place in DC. Those sound super sexy, although those aren't the majority of moves in America today. The majority of moves in America are still very much hopping very shorts, still very much moving further out from the city into the suburbs. And so we've seen lifestyle search come and go. Zillow took a stab at it with realestate.com, no longer up anymore. Maybe they'll bring it back. But we've seen this attempt of, I like to golf, I like to play bridge, I need a senior community, where should I live in America? I don't think it's going to be that. I think it's going to bring more information into the haystack needle process. And
Wait,
instead of the drop,
did you actually play bridge?
I don't play bridge. No, I don't play bridge.
I thought you did, and I was going to say, dude, I didn't know you were 85 years old.
In the Midwest, we play a game called euchre. You can look it up if you can figure out how to spell it. And maybe just, talk to ChatGPT and ask it about euchre. But the process of, we think the process is changing. And if you go to brokerdata.com and use our search, and we're live in Chicago, Indianapolis, and Charlotte, if you go use the search area, you'll see we don't have those large drop downs anymore. And that's where we think AI is helping with that. And we think that's going to happen in the MLS side and the agent side, the ability to talk to your phone and have it fill out those forms for you and really find the objective criteria that you're looking for. Subjective is still hard, right? Is this a fixer upper? I want it in a nice condition. Like, understanding condition from photos is difficult because we don't yet know of the photos in the MLS of what are actually of the property or not of the property. And there's people solving those problems like Reso and whatnot. And so we want really accurate from your voice. Did you get down to this objective criteria? I need to know if it has a pool or not. Well, is it a community pool? Is the pool attached? Is it a private pool? Is it above ground pool? So those nuances, we need to figure those out and be very accurate. So we're focused on accuracy right now, and making sure we're getting good results there.
And you talk about the markets you're live. Do you have an idea of timeline of other markets and expansion? Is that something you can share?
Yeah, I would love to tell you we're going to be in so many markets so quickly. Look, we're a different model. And I'm fine with that. I think what's unique about our model is we can't be bought or sold. So you're never going to see the BPP was acquired by someone. You're never going to see that news come out. And that is our superpower. So when I think back to 2014, 2015, the governance that was set up, that you can only own one share in the BPP, it can't be purchased. We can't take investment money. We can't even take, as some of the brokers, we've seen consolidation with brokers, Compass buying some of our members. Compass still has one share in the Broker Public Portal like everyone else. And so you can only own one unit in the Broker Public Portal. And so we'll never go away, but we're also limited by how we can monetize. And so really this is a community effort that MLSs have to say, I want to invest in it because we're doing the right thing for brokers by having them not have to go buy their clients back or pay a referral fee of 42% on Zillow or pay a referral fee at realtor.com. And so if you're bought into that concept and you want to help out with that concept and you want to make sure that you're giving your clients a great experience so they don't have to go to those sites, that's the angle we're really shooting for here. And I would love to say we're going to reach this amount of coverage by this amount of times, but this space is complicated. And there's a lot of other more important things. And I'm shocked you're having me on your podcast that are being argued about or being discussed about. And so those are taking top priority right now in our space, which they should. They're very important.
Well, let me ask you this too. I mean, I think kind of V1 of BPP was, hey, we're going to find a way to use data so then we can shut down all the data feeds to other portals. I mean, there were a lot of, I mentioned kind of when we started, there were rumors of what it was and there were rumors of what it wasn't.
Yeah.
And I mean, clarify, is that the intent, to try to put other portals, quote, out of business or shut off feeds, or is anything like that hold true today?
No, none of that is true. In fact, I commonly get mistaken for that old way of thinking. To get there, they had to come up with another platform called Project Upstream, and then I get confused of, okay, are we doing upstream listing input, which shockingly is coming back into back into the light now around listing input and private listing portals or private listing networks. Um, we're definitely not that. In fact, if you read even the rules that National Association of Realtors passed around DMEL, MLS websites, which we're going to start powering some of these being an MLS portal or being the front end to MLS systems, not from a MLS search, but from a consumer search perspective. We're
Mhm.
following the same exact rules that every portal has to follow. I'm not getting access to data. I can go ask a broker for their data, I suppose, and brokers could pass data directly to us. Uh, we don't have a giant team to do those things, so we're trying to find partners in the MLS to do those. But if there's private listing networks, the MLS decides what they want to put on their consumer portal. I don't get to make that decision. And we're in the same exact boat as Redfin, same exact boat as Zillow, same exact boat as all these other portals.
Got it. What would you say are your biggest challenges as you move through this?
Um, I, I don't think the tech challenges are challenges. That's the fun part. It's definitely the political side of things, getting us to come together as an industry and hold hands and say, we want to do this. We should have a portal in which we own. Well, we have realtor.com. Well, we technically own the National Association of Realtors owns the name realtor.com, but it is a very much a for-profit company owned by News Corp.
Sure.
Something we actually own from a technology standpoint that we can deploy, and we can deploy locally, we can deploy nationally. That is a search experience that is on par with those top portals. Uh, it's difficult in our space to agree because we're also competitors, and so to put something out there that says, "Oh, you're level of the playing field in search," and it's like I want to compete on that, and getting everybody to realize that we are so far behind, and hey, we all need to pitch in to get us up to that level. So let's raise the tide for everyone, and then let's build on top of that. That's been a difficult message to tell people about. We still have it better than other countries, though. You and I both worked for Remax and understand dealing with our country footprint there was, difficult at times and understanding how real estate is done in those other countries. But we have it good here. We're trying to make it better, is what I would say. And that's going to involve us coming together to realize that.
I think you're right about that. I think for years of my black background leading two global real estate companies that we got to see up close and personally rules or lack thereof in certain countries or lack of sophistication that are envious of the way that US and Canada actually have such a sophisticated organized real estate system that benefits consumers. And I always chuckle a little bit when I hear people say, oh, but if we were like South Africa or parts of Europe or things of that nature, in a lot of those countries, it's buyer beware. I traveled to one just a few years ago. It was in an area of Spain. They didn't even put photographs with listings. It was just mind blowing. It looked like a 2-line classified ad from 1984. And so, we're so well beyond that. So I couldn't agree more. But
But
we
we
have
were
to
in that
innovate.
we were in that position, Nick. When I started in 2004, there was still one MLS here in Michigan that didn't provide address. And the main argument at the board was if we provided the address, they wouldn't have to call us to get the address.
That's right.
Also, realtor.com's model back in the day was one photo, but they had a thing called showcase listings. Sound familiar? And that an agent would showcase their listings and you could get all the photos to appear online, if not only one photo showed. So the argument was for agents, well, they got to call me to see the property. So I'm not going to put all the photos online. And there were some agents that wanted to put all the photos online. So we were not very consumer centric. And you have someone that comes along that wants to be totally transparent, as Rich Barton would say, turn on the lights, right? And that I just want to see what the agent can see and really change the game for everyone. And even after that, realtor.com only went to 4 photos for free, and then you had to pay more. So their business model was messed up. Now everyone has all the photos, right? And it's a very level playing field from a data standpoint. But we have some other things up our sleeve on the data side that we're really interested in and how we give access and kind of change the ways that we think people are going to access search in the future.
No, you're right. It's been a pretty short period of time since the amount of transparency has evolved for consumers. And I agree. And it's interesting to see the thought process that some want to continue that transparency mission and some want to kind of go back and play hide and go seek again a little bit. And I think at the end of the day, at least what I've seen over the last couple of decades being in this business a while, is consumers are driving this bus.
100%.
We as brokers and agents get involved and back and forth, but at the end of the day, it's the buyer and seller that are driving this direction.
Yep.
I think
that toothpaste isn't getting back in that tube. Might as well brush our teeth.
Do that. I've never tried to do that.
I haven't. I'm just trying to get my son to brush his teeth. Like, that's what I tell brokers: just brush your teeth. Let's just get
brush your teeth. That's what we learned here about Broker Public Portal. Brush your teeth. Dan, okay, to finish up, how can people support what you're doing? How can people get more involved if they don't know more? What recommendations would you give them?
Yeah, I think support, obviously looking for coverage. We're looking for brokers to let their MLS know they want to back this. They want to support this. You can go to brokerdata.com, which is a domain we own. We love it. It's not going to be our consumer domain. We have another consumer domain coming out once we get a little more coverage. But how we're bringing this to MLSs is saying this is technology that eventually will make its way down to the broker. The broker will be able to utilize it as well on their own search, which is great. And we ask that you ask your MLS to get involved. And how we actually support this, I almost said monetize, but how we actually support this is all of us pitching in. And that's the model. Otherwise, we have to come up with pay-per-lead models. Otherwise, we have to come up with advertising models. And everyone hates those models once they get big enough because they feel like they're monetizing off data in some way. But if we want to control the portal space and we want to be more involved and give our consumers a better search, we're going to have to support that in some way. And I'm asking for MLSs to support us and getting coverage in those markets and really delivering something that's different to the brokers that they can utilize. And look, we don't want that 6% number to go up. We want more people to do business with our brokers directly when we're not seeing referral fees go out the door.
Got it. Makes sense. Okay. Good update. Dan, thanks. You're doing some good work there, and no better person that I know to be doing it other than Data Dan. So
I appreciate that, Nick. Thanks for having me today. Absolutely.
Okay, everyone. Thanks for joining us here to talk about the search space. It's an ever-evolving continuation for consumers, and there's always something new happening. So great to have an update. Make sure, once again, go to askt3.com. You can see past episodes, shoot us a comment, give us a show idea, and it's a pleasure being your host. Nick Bailey, Chief Real Estate Officer here at T360. We'll see you next time.